Hi, everyone. You're watching Yoga with Sangeeta live here at Bhakti Fest in Joshua Tree, California. I cannot tell you how excited I am today to have this person, this man sitting next to me. This is Krishna Das, and I really consider him as my teacher. So for him to be sitting here next to me right now means the world to me. And I'm excited to hear what he has to share with all of you today. Thank you, Krishna Das. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
And so we're here in Joshua Tree at Bhakti Fest. And what is Bhakti Fest for you? Actually, can you maybe tell the audience what is Bhakti?
Bhakti is devotional yoga. Bhakti means yoga of love. And the idea is that whatever the heart loves, that's what you'll be thinking about. So the practice is to involves chanting, meditation, stuff like that. But the idea is to try to open the heart so that you can overcome all the things that keep you closed and unhappy.
And you being here, I didn't even explain who you are and what you do. And so you're coming to Bhakti Fest since the beginning, since about 6 years now. And what do you bring to this magical space?
Well, that's a good question.
And don't be modest.
People say I'm humble, but I say, no, you just don't know me. I know me. What I bring here is my practice, which is called kirtan in India. It's the chanting of what they call the divine names, the names of God. But as a Westerner and for Westerners, I share it in a very simple way. It involves singing, call and response, and I'll sing a line, and then the audience will respond, and it keeps going back and forth, and after a while it starts to deepen. And the idea is that to pay attention, and that anything you're thinking about or feeling or imagining or remembering, you simply let it go and come back to the chant over and over again. And what that does is it kind of trains us, and it familiarizes us with what it's like to be sitting quietly inside while all the craziness is still happening. This is not running away from the world. This is right in the world, and it's a way of not having to close down to deal with everyday life.
And speaking of that, as a Westerner, as yourself, and kirtan and yoga and all of this practice is such an ancient practice from thousands of years before. How did you become involved in this? How did your life all of a sudden branch out to this beautiful, beautiful expression in the world?
Well, I'm actually 43,000 years old, so I was there when it started.
How old?
43,000. That was a previous age, To tell you the truth, what started me on this path was unhappiness, I was very unhappy as a teenager, and I couldn't connect with anyone. I didn't feel... Outwardly, everything looked good, but inside I was dying, and I started to hear about the Dharma, the spiritual path, just from a couple of little things happened, I got interested in that and just tried to find what that was about. Back when I was starting to look at this stuff in the early 60s, there was nothing happening, and there was no yoga studios. There was very few books about this. It wasn't on every corner. It wasn't so available. Now that's so amazing. There's so much teaching here, so many ways to find a way inside, a way to deal with stuff. But in those days, it was rough. So I heard about a guru in India that I immediately felt close to, and then I went to see him, and I stayed there until he sent me back. I was never going to come back to America, but he sent me back.
How long were you in India for?
2.5 years.
And then I think I remember the story, but what did he tell you? Why did you have to come back?
He looked at me one day and said, "Hep, you got to go back. You have attachment there." I said, but I'm just learning Hindi. Too bad. You got to go.
And Bhakti Fest, it's something that I would say, there's just a percentage of people who come out here, but that percentage is large. Every year we have thousands of people from all over the world that come here. And why do we all come out here into the desert? It's a Joshua Tree. And why are we all drawn to come here?
Well, to be honest, everybody has different motives for coming here. There's a lot of mating and dating. There's a lot of strange use of chemicals, I think, by people. But it's presented in the scope of this spiritual practice of chanting. And so people are drawn to that for many reasons. And the thing about chanting is that they say every repetition of one of these names is actually a seed that gets planted in your mind stream, so to speak. And when you plant seeds, sooner or later they grow. And they also say that every action we do, every thought we have is also a seed. So when we do a practice like this, we're making a choice to plant certain kinds of seeds. You know, if we plant the seeds of kindness and caring and compassion and a search for peace, we're going to get different fruit than we do if we plant seeds of anger and greed and selfishness. So this practice works on many levels. So even people who come here with intentions that are not necessarily that above board, they're still getting a feel for this practice. And the seeds are getting planted because it's not only the repetition of the names, but the hearing of the name. That's also plants seeds. So it's very good that way. And it's a practice that works over time. I can hold your arm up here if you want. Very good. Well,
This is Kundalini Yoga practice right now.
Good, yeah. Yeah.
And so about the chanting itself, because that's primarily my background too. And I really have to say, first off, is, you know, the first time I've ever heard your music, it was before I even started to chant. And I was singing opera. But when I heard your music, there was something that really unlocked something inside of me. And so I have this, you know, love and devotion toward it, but I am just so grateful for this inspiration for all these years of listening, and that you had really opened my heart to something like this. So it is a real honor for me to be here. I consider you as my teacher. I always tell, you know, my friends, like, he's like my guru of music. I don't see him all the time, but it's really inspiring, and I'm so grateful for that. And
I appreciate that very much. You know, but it's important that for you to understand and for everybody to understand that I started singing because I was in very bad shape after my guru left the body. I was very unhappy. And many years went by and I wasn't doing anything to help myself. And I remember I was alone in my room in New York at the time, and I was struck with the understanding that if I did not chant with people, I would never be able to clean out the dark shadows and clean out the dark corners of my own heart. And it was very clear that it was only my own stuff that was causing me the unhappiness. And this was all I was being offered by the universe. It took a while for me to get to it. So the idea is, you know, this is my practice. This is what I'm doing to save my own butt.
And then speaking of that, being that chanting is a practice, would you say that it's, you know, there's meditation, there's yoga, there's mantra, there's chanting and all of that. What is the scope of that? What is the difference, or how do they complement one another?
You know, Buddha said suffering follows thought like a wheel follows, like the cart follows a wheel. All our suffering comes from our thinking and our attachment to our thoughts and our programs that are running with us. All spiritual practices, one way or another, free us from the attachment and identification with our stuff, because that's where the suffering is, and it moves us deeper into our true nature, you know, and which you can call by any name, you know. So they're all the same in that sense, but different people have different feelings, and they let different things appeal to them.
Would you say in that respect that, you know, there's so many different religions out there, so many different practices, and chanting, I mean, I would think that it's part of almost every religion, almost every practice, spiritual practice. What is your take on that?
I agree with you. I think chanting is a part of every religious tradition. You know, my guru was a Hindu. I lived in India. These chants, most of the chants I do are either Indian or Tibetan. But I'm just a guy. I don't consider myself a member of any religion or any particular organization, you know, except the human race. That, you know, so all these practices really just make us, they give us the opportunity to become a good human being, you know. So I don't feel it's about religion for me, and I wouldn't want anybody not to come because they thought it was some religious practice that was opposite of theirs, you know.
And as you said, chanting is really creating that seed, planting the seed, and it's in the name, and that sound current in the name, it really just travels through your subconscious, through the cells of the body. And so actually I had one friend of mine who, when he met me recently, he said, "Oh my God, you're chanting, like, how did you get into this?" And he's a pop star, you know, he's a pop artist. And he said, "I really want to do this, but I'm just so afraid of, you know, my fans or the people who know me doing certain things are going to be turned off by it." But I mean, someone who has talent and someone who has the drive, how would you inspire them in what way to just start, or what is a way that they can just jump on board and do it?
Well, that's an interesting situation your friend has, you know, and in one sense, it's a test for him. What does he want? What's really important to him in life? At some point, fame and money and all this stuff can get pretty empty really quick. And if you don't have something going on inside, all that stuff is not going to help you very much. So he's going to have to come to a point where his own heart becomes more important than his desires, you know. So I just start singing, you know. It doesn't have to be part of a group, you know. You can sing along with CDs. You can sing in the shower, in the bathtub.
You can listen to Krishna Das on CD.
Yeah, you could do that if you want to. If you can, you can certainly do that. And it's just a question of, you know, getting comfortable with it. People think, you know, I mean, I understand that people feel it's very foreign to some degree, but the world's getting so small, you know. Like, this is going to be seen, you know, by somebody sitting in a little village in Malaysia, maybe. Who knows where that, you know, how did that happen, right? And here I am. When I go back to India, I started singing in India with the Indians, which I never did before. And they're so appreciative and so sweet. It's just, it's such a great practice, and it's easy and it's meditative, and it kind of brings so many good fruits to your life without a lot of complexity.
I had the honor to watch you guys last night, and ladies and gentlemen, Krishna Das has like this massive, talented amount of musicians that are on stage with him. And can you tell me a little bit, you know, being a musician myself, it's like trying to find all the right musicians, but how did you all meet and how did you all come together to create such magic? And I mean, you're traveling the world with these people, but how did that all happen for all of us artists who are wanting to know, like myself?
You're asking the wrong guy. That's all I can tell you. I have no idea how any of this happened. Really? I have no idea, no clue. I just keep singing and stuff changes in front of my eyes. I wish I knew. People, on another note, people ask me all the time, how can I start chanting with people? And I say, how do I know? You know, I'm doing it because I had to. It's not a career. It wasn't a career option for me. It's not it turned into that because I used to sing for free all the time in New York City. And then somebody invited me to California. Well, how was I going to get there? You know, I'd still be walking, you know. So I said, well, I guess we'll have to charge tickets to buy that ticket, you know. So that's how we started charging, because you travel, yeah. And then I started doing this all the time. So, I had to give up my job at the gas station.
No way, I don't believe you. So I just wanted to ask you another question. There's so many young artists out there, young spiritual artists, amazing talent out there, and we're seeing a lot of them here at Bhakti Fest. And I had this inkling in my mind, and I thought, oh my God, what would it be like? There's so many of us, and again, I'll include myself in that, but how do you find would be the most powerful method or way to really support the younger generation to keep this music going, to keep the love in it, the inspiration, the power in it, the healing methods in it? How do we keep the young generation really thriving and moving?
I'm a bit of an extremist on this point. I think it's better to let God do it, because that's what's happening. You know, my guru used to say, people come already taught by God. Program is running. Everybody's finding what they need because from their insights. It's not a group thing. That's the wrong attitude. That's the wrong vision of it. Each individual, the heart of each individual is calling out to open, and that's why this happens. I don't want to, but you know, when you take your last breath, it's just you. There's nobody else there. When you sit down to sing, it's just you. It's always just you. And you're responsible for your moment, of what you do with every one of your moments. It's not a group situation. The more people who are kind of pulled to this practice, well, that's great. But, you know, once again, you got to realize, I didn't do this to start any kind of movement. I did this to save my ass. And I'm still doing it for the same reason. So you got to remember that. Don't get caught in the external. It's not about music. It's not about a career. It's not about finding love in the world. It's not about making people happy. It's about finding who you are. And everybody has to do that for themselves. When we do chanting together, we're doing it for ourselves together, and that's very helpful to everybody. But you got to remember the real emphasis has to be on paying attention to what you're doing and giving yourself wholeheartedly to the moment. What happens is not in our hands. And the more that every person does that, the more other people will notice that this might be a way to help themselves, and then they'll do it. No advertising. You know, I don't have an agent. Everywhere I go is by invitation from day one. No, that's not true. Day one was when I called Jiva Mukti and asked if I could come down to chant.
You moved to New York.
Yeah, back in 1994. They said, yeah, okay. And then the next time was when I called my friend Kimberly, who was teaching at Yoga Works in California, in L.A. I said, you think I can come chant there? I'm going out to San Francisco. I was invited. She said,
I can't even imagine those days for you.
yeah, you know, there was... for me, it was no different than these days. Really. I sing this, you know, I sing whenever I sing, and it doesn't matter who's there, who's not there.
It's a perfect situation. Yeah. What a blessing it was to have you here. And again, I'm just really inspired by you, and you've taught me a lot, and your grace has just been really power in my heart. And all your wise words have taught me a lot, even through my own music. So I'm really honored to be here. Thank you, KD. So much love. Thank you.